This week's episode of the Moonlight Graham Show is brought to you by the People's Company. That's right, they are back as a sponsor because so often I hear from farmers throughout Iowa and throughout the Midwest who are listening to the podcast while they are planting, while they are harvesting. They're in their tractors, they're in their combines, which makes the People's Company a perfect partner for the Moonlight Graham Show here. As you guys probably well know, the People's Company is based in West Des Moines, Iowa, but they've really grown to be one of the nation's leading providers in land brokerage, land management, land appraisal, and investment services. These guys, and I know Andrew Zelmer and Matt Adams over there at the People's Company, these guys live and breathe farmland, farm management, and they know that industry better than anybody. So if you're looking to buy a farm, sell a farm, having an auction coming up, call the People's Company. They are the best in the business. Check them out at peoplescompany.com.
This is the Moonlight Graham Show, a freewheeling conversation with the role players, the underdogs, and guys with flat-out great stories in sports.
All right, so we're back in the Moonlight Graham Show studio, back in studio here with Zac Kibby, current player of the UNI Panthers. Zac, thank you for joining the podcast.
Thanks for having me. It's awesome.
So, Zac, you are an Algona Garrigan Golden Bear.
Absolutely.
And we've had some Golden Bears on the podcast in the past. Brad Nelson. Now, do you think Brad Nelson is the greatest athlete in Garrigan Golden Bear history?
I mean, definitely the most successful athlete. I mean,
who do you think would be better?
I would say Brad. I mean, he's got the basketball records. He's got baseball. He didn't play football, but if he would have, I'm sure he would have been great.
Where do you think you rank in the pantheon of Golden Bears?
I have no idea.
You top 20?
I'll give myself a top 20.
all right. Because you played all the sports at Bishop Garrigan, and when you go to a small school, you have to play all the sports. That's the deal. You got to play baseball, you got to run track, you got to play basketball and football. What was your favorite sport? Even though you're playing football in college, did you have a favorite sport growing up?
I think football was always my favorite sport. I think baseball is probably the one I most enjoyed because I'm not going out there in a game thinking I'm going to get smacked, I'm going to get hit in the head, like all this. It's more relaxed, I think, but it was definitely one I enjoyed.
Yeah. Well, and it's in the summer, too. It's a little more laid back. You know, the coaches are kind of more chill. They're not in your face the whole time. There's more games, so it's got a different vibe to it than, basketball or football can be pretty intense.
Absolutely, yeah. Especially with Mark Farley at UNI, a little more intense there.
Yeah, I bet. So back in the day, St. Edmund, where I went to high school, and Garrigan, they were rivals. They were the only two Catholic schools in the North Central Conference. The Cowards, going to Garrigan, has since left the North Central Conference. They're no longer in there. They ran away. They couldn't take the competition. But how did you guys do against St. Ed's back in the day?
Well, in football, freshman, sophomore, junior year, you all got us.
Oh, really?
But my senior year, the only one that matters, right?
That's right.
We handed it to them, so ended on a good note for that. Baseball's usually back and forth. I think early on, we got them, and then it's kind of back and forth. Basketball, I don't remember, honestly.
Well, if you don't remember, that means you must have lost.
Maybe. Who knows?
So you're at UNI now, Zac. I just went up to Cedar Falls for the first time in a while. A couple of weeks ago, we were watching the UNI Drake game. Mm-hmm. And we went out to Main Street that night. And, whenever you go back to your old college town, the first thing you're looking at is, are the bars the same? What bars are the same? What bars are different? And, Main Street and then the Hill at Cedar Falls has really changed over the last 10, 12 years since I've been there. So what is the current hangout? Like, where do the football guys hang out on the Hill?
My roommates and I really like to go to social. It's more of a just relax. There's no, there's a dance floor, but we just got to sit there and have a good time. Nothing too crazy, but.
Is that on the Hill or is that on Main Street?
Hill, yep.
Now, where is so? I don't even know what that is.
It's right next to where Beck's used to be, which is now a Little Pigs.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, right next to there.
So, is Sud still a hangout for FAC?
I don't ever get to go to FAC because I'm always at lifting during that time.
Oh, that's right.
But
you're a dedicated athlete.
Yeah, something like that. But yeah, Suds is up there, and that's a good one. Pretty relaxed bar, but Sharky's and Little Bigs, which used to be a Beck's, is the I don't usually go there. It's usually the freshman bars.
Yeah. Yeah, Sharky's was definitely the freshman bar when I was there, but it was also the bar by the time you were a senior, you were reminiscing about, hey, let's go have a Sharky's night.
That's exactly what we say. Well, we'll make jokes about it, I ended up in Sharky's last night.
Yeah.
That was a good night.
Right, exactly. So when I was in school, Twitter was just coming up, right? And social media was just coming up, and it wasn't a big issue. But now you see it, like you and I got in touch for this interview by DMing each other on Twitter, right? And it's how a lot of people communicate nowadays, like with Instagram and TikTok and Twitter and things like that. How is it that like Coach Farley and the UNI team, how do they patrol social media in this day and age?
Yeah, well, they all have their Twitter accounts too. They're not very active on there. It's more, I think, to promote, obviously, but then to monitor our stuff. Basically, just be smart. It's common sense. If you're putting out good stuff and not, tearing down yourself or your school or other people, just be smart. It's common sense.
Right. Is that the rules then? Are there actual drawn out rules, or is it more common sense? Like Coach Farley just says, "Hey guys, be smart. Don't say anything stupid."
He'll talk about it, but there's no like given guidelines. It's just, really, he just says use your head, basically.
Right. Because you see Ferentz at Iowa; those guys are off Twitter.
Yeah.
And are they? I don't think they're off Instagram. Are they off all of it?
No, they're off Twitter completely, and then they can have Instagram.
So how tough is that as a football player to in season to not look at that stuff and to see what people are saying about you? Because if you start looking at your mentions or searching your name on Twitter after say an Iowa State UNI game, how tough is that for a kid?
I don't know. UNI doesn't have a huge following compared to like an LSU or an Iowa. So if we lose, like you might see some stuff on there, but it's not to the extent of, everyone saying fire Ferentz or this and that, right?
Right.
So yeah, and I can't really say I've had a single time where someone's called me out on social media, but
really. Maybe we need to start calling you out next year in only the good way. We'll get all the Moonlighters to be tweeting at Zac Kibby for your senior season.
Perfect.
Yeah. But after that Iowa State UNI game, right, last year to start last season, triple overtime game, there was so much expectation for the Cyclones coming into that year, right? This was Campbell's year. They were preseason ranked. And then you guys come in and you have Will McIlvain, the quarterback, starting out, and it was his first start. He was nobody knew what to expect out of him. And so you guys come in the game and you really outplayed Iowa State that whole game, but you didn't win. And you had a good game punting too. Yeah. Like field position was a big factor in that game, and you had a great game in your own right. After that game happened and you lose in triple overtime, right? And it could make we could have beat a top 25 team here. How tough is it to like stay off social media and not get kind of caught up in the fanfare of social media?
Well, after that game, when you open up your phone on Twitter and stuff, and we actually had a lot of compliments. You think it'd be the other way around, but instead of negative, it's all positive stuff. People were giving us credit, saying, props to you and I, great game. There were some ESPN announcers that were, giving us props, and it was tough. After that game, you're sitting there thinking, like, we played a really good game, and you almost want to be happy, but in the end, a loss is a loss, and knowing how close you are, it's like, dang it, like you're so close to, having something great.
Right. If Brock Purdy doesn't jump on that fumble, I can't remember what overtime that was. It might have been the third overtime. Like the game's over. And he came from like 3 yards away to get that fumble. And that was the whole game right there.
Yeah. We came into meetings actually on Sunday morning. And we have 3 projector screens in our meeting room. And they're all paused on the play with the ball just laying there and no one around it. And we're that close. And Farley kind of made that a point throughout the season about how close we are to things. We're that close. And
yeah, it's tough because all of a sudden then you're 0-1. It doesn't matter. You're 0-1, they're 1-0, right? End of the day, that's all that matters is wins and losses. How tough is it to get ready for a game like that to start the year, right? When you're playing up a level against an Iowa State team who was good at that time, and how much like doubt is in your brain? Like, how big of a gap is there? How big of a talent gap is there between us and them?
That's one thing that surprised me a lot. Especially coming out of high school, I see Iowa and Iowa State, I see UNI, and there's a level difference, obviously. And so in my head, I'm thinking, these guys are crazy athletes, they're way better than us. And you get on the field, and it's really similar. I think the biggest difference would probably be their depth. They have more scholarships to hand out than we do. But the guys on the field, you're going to get your 1 or 2 guys that are, draft picks. And we all have our draft picks, but not as frequent as them.
Right.
But, for the most part, the 22 guys on the field are very similar. A lot more than you think, and it just turns into a depth thing. Like, we might have 1 or 2 running backs that we play with. They might have 4. They might have 8 receivers. They rotate. We might have 5. It turns into a depth thing. But games like those, especially with Iowa State, we beat Iowa State enough times where guys don't think, I hope we can get lucky here. We've done it enough times where we know we can do it. Iowa we have yet to beat, so this year hopefully we can cross that one off.
I've said this a number of times on this show. The last game I've ever watched in Kinnick was the game that Billy Hallgren had 2 field goals blocked right at the end of the game. Number 36, Billy Hallgren. And I swore I would never step foot in Kinnick Stadium ever again after that, and I haven't. I have not been back. I've turned down tickets a number of times just because that one hurt. As a Panther fan, that one hurt really bad. How often is that game talked about?
I was actually at that game when I was younger, and I had my Iowa shirt on back then, growing up. And I was going on, you don't get the Cedar Falls TV, so I had ESPN, and who do you see on there? You see Iowa and Iowa State. So I was, at the time, pretty happy about that, I'll admit. My stepdad, he was a UNI Panther also, and he was not very happy, and I was letting him hear it, and so I think back to that. But that game, before we played Iowa 2 years ago, like the whole fall camp leading up to that, Mark Farley just talks about that game, and he pulls up that clip multiple times, and I'm ready to see that again this fall because I know it's going to be pulled up multiple times.
Right. Yeah, I mean, so as a guy that grew up cheering for the Hawks growing up, and you get to start off your last season in Kinnick Stadium, what's that feel like?
It's pretty special. You grow up as a kid, especially in Iowa, and a big sports fan. I went to all these games in Jack Trice and Kinnick, and I've been to the Dome plenty of times, and just, I don't know. It's everything I dreamed of as a kid, and to, my last season of football, to start there is a great start to the last season.
So how'd you end up at UNI? If you grew up a Hawk fan, what path led you to Cedar Falls?
So I actually signed and committed to Iowa Western Community College.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know that.
Who's really good?
Yeah.
They're a really good JUCO program.
But they came into my school, and they offered me, and it sounded like a great deal and all this, and I got a call one day from my parents, and they're like, hey, Mark Farley wants to meet with you. And I'm like, why? Like, why me? Like, so I ended up going down there for a visit, and he was really real with me. He didn't tell me you're going to play. He told me, like, this is what it's going to be like. It's going to be tough. You're going to have to do this, this, and this. And he wasn't putting that, he wasn't putting
smoke, right?
Yeah, no smoke. He was telling me all of it, and I told him I was committed to Iowa Western, and he's like, well, I bet they told you this, this, and this. I'm like, yeah. He goes, well, here's what they didn't tell you, this, and all this other stuff. I'm like, okay. And I left there. I'm still going to Iowa Western, like, whatever. I'm not. And then one day I was sitting there in religion class at Garrigan.
There you go. You're a good Catholic kid.
Exactly. And our teacher was passing out papers, and we wrote down our names and where we were going to college on it. And I don't know why I did it, but I wrote down UNI, and I just kind of clicked in my head right there. I'm like, it just felt right. And at that point, I kind of made a decision more for school and academics over football. I mean, I like Cedar Falls a lot more than the Council Bluffs. Nothing against Council Bluffs people, but
right,
it just felt more homey to me, I guess.
Yeah, UNI is a great college town.
Yeah, I mean, perfect.
So you go to UNI as like a defensive back, right? And over the last 3-4 years, you've played some defensive back, but you found your real home is punting.
Yeah.
Did you go to UNI as a punter? Was that in mind, or how did this happen?
Yeah, so that was never. Punter was never by my name on the depth chart for anything. It was my third year, so my redshirt sophomore year, fall camp, and at this time, I'm doing everything I can to make the travel squad. And the more you can do, the more valuable you are. And
so are you just asking coaches, hey, do you need a backup punter? Do you need a holder? Do you need like all these other special teams jobs?
We had a really good punter, but we didn't really have a backup. And I'm sitting there after practice, like, kind of thinking in my head, like, maybe I could, because Farley had mentioned, like, we need to find a backup punter. So in my head, I'm like, maybe I can do it, So after practice one day, I was messing around and started hitting some punts, and I just happened to hit some really good punts that day. And my defensive coordinator saw it, and he was like, that's pretty good. So the next day, we're in warm-ups, and Farley goes, Kibby, get over here. So I ran over there, and he had me kick for him, and he goes, perfect, you found a punter. So then it was really more of an emergency punter, so they called it. So yeah, that kind of just came up, and I never expected to actually punt in a game. Like, that's not going to happen.
So this was 2 years ago?
Yes.
Yeah.
And we're at Montana, first game of the year, and there's a penalty on one of the punts, and someone's like, hey, Kibby, Coons, who was our punter at the time, he goes, Coons got a targeting, you're going in. So I'm freaking out. I'm like, oh, crap, like, I don't actually want to punt in a game.
Hold on. The punter got hit. Like, or he hit somebody and got a flag for it.
Well, they were telling me that. That didn't actually happen.
Okay.
So I never had to punt that game, but I'm freaking out. I'm like, no, this is not happening. So 2 weeks later, we're playing in Iowa, and I'm sitting there, and someone comes up to me and goes, Kuntz broke his hand. You got to punt. I'm like, yeah, I've heard this one before. You know, I'm not punting. Like, good try. Next thing you know, I got 4 coaches yelling my name to get over there, and his hand's in a splint. I'm like, well, crap. I'm going to have to punt. So, I mean, I ran out to Kinnick for my first ever punt in a Division I game, and I've never practiced punting. I'm like,
what do you mean you never practiced punting? Like, you were the emergency punter, but had you ever done any reps in practice at all?
I would kick in practice, but, I mean, I didn't have any special coaching. I was
right, you were just booting the ball.
And just, yeah, and I'd roll out and I'd tumble it just down the line and just get as many yards as possible. But
oh, so you were like the rugby style.
Yeah.
Yeah. So were you doing this at Garrigan, though? Did you punt for Garrigan?
Yep.
Okay. And did you consider yourself a good punter in high school?
I thought I was like a decent punter, but I would never say that, this kid's a really good punter. I never really thought that about myself. I just knew I could kind of kick it kind of far, but that was...
Yeah, like when did you start punting? Were you like in 4th grade or 5th grade when you start playing football? Were you the punter right away?
I think so. I don't remember, but I think so. I mean, just when you're a kid, you're just kicking the ball back and forth. And
yeah, but it never crossed my mind to be a punter.
Yeah,
like I wanted to be the quarterback. I wanted to have the ball. The only reason I would want to be a punter is so I could run fake punts.
Yeah, well, yeah, it never crossed my mind either until going into Montana. So, I mean, crazy how things work, but yeah, that just...
So how long did it take you to kind of find your ground as a punter? You go into Kinnick, you're nervous, you'd never done it before, it's a new thing.
I didn't know what I was doing. I was out there, I was freaking out. I'm like, what am I doing? I'm punting at Kinnick. My mom didn't even know. I didn't tell anyone that I was a backup punter. I didn't think it mattered. And yeah, so she was probably confused as to why her son was out there kicking the ball.
Well, and how'd it go?
Yeah, well, it went fine. The Kinnick game was fine. Nothing bad. That year I punted 4 times, I believe. I had 4 games, then he came back as the punter. And then last year, so he graduates, and all last season I was punting. And I talked my way out of a few games because I don't really like punting. That's the thing. Like, I like to run down and hit people, and punting, playing defensive back as well. If there's a toss-up saying, oh, we need to sub someone in, do I put in this guy or do I put in our backup punter? Probably not put in your punter just to save him. So I felt that a little bit last year. And so I was trying to get out of punting a lot because I'm like, I want to play defense. I want to hit people. I don't want this to hurt my other stuff. And so I finally talked my way out of it for a few games, and then that didn't really work out. So I ended up coming back to punt. But it was funny, though. The first game I didn't punt this year was South Dakota. And the very first punt, I was playing right guard on punt. So I took off down the field, and the returner muffs it. And I pick it up and score a touchdown. Now, you can't advance it, but I kept running anyway.
Right.
So in my head, I scored a touchdown.
Yeah, moments like that don't come around. You got to take them for what it's worth.
Absolutely. So I scored a touchdown in my head. I just thought that was kind of funny that first punt of the year, the punter scores a touchdown on a punt. So
right.
I just thought that was funny in my head, but yeah.
So how's this work then? Like, you're talking yourself out of being the punter because, like, in your head, is this an ego thing? Like, you just don't have respect for punters as a whole? You think they're kind of wussy, and so, like, you want to be more of the tough guy defensive back? Is that it? Or is it just because, like, you enjoy hitting people more?
I've definitely embraced the role of punting a little bit more and respected it. But yeah, to an outsider's standpoint, I mean, what's the stereotypes for a kicker? I mean,
right, exactly.
Small guy.
Nerdy guy, skinny guy.
A football player, you just kick the ball, right?
Exactly.
So, I like to set people straight when they ask, and yeah,
I'm a tough punter,
I'm a different, yeah,
exactly. I'm different. But we've seen it. So like Matt Hawk, the punter for the Dolphins, is a Dowling guy. Went to high school at Dowling. Was a great wide receiver in high school, and when he was at Arizona State, he was one of the best college punters, and they ran a ton of fake punts with him because he's a phenomenal athlete. And then you saw this year they did like a really sick fake extra, or was a fake field goal or fake extra point, I think, where he like essentially ran an option and then it turned into a shovel pass to the kicker. Now you got to think, as an athletic punter like yourself, like maybe that's a route for me.
Yeah, we have fakes in and we practice them weekly, but I could not tell you a single time that Mark Farley has called a fake punt, not just in my 4 years of being there, but guys that are older than me, they're like, oh yeah, he's never called one. So we actually called one playing Weber State this year. They called it on the headset, so I'm freaking out. And then they called it off, but I was getting excited. But yeah, we have some runs, we have some passes, we have some that don't involve me. So
they hike it to the up back maybe.
can't tell you that.
You can't tell me. This is top secret information.
You can use your
here.
imagination for that one.
Yeah, we've seen enough fake punts in my day. Well, I got to imagine, since you do the rugby style and you're a good athlete, you're fast, you're strong, that I'm actually surprised they haven't done that yet. Are you on Farley? Like, hey, man, come on.
I've never asked him for the fake punt, but I joke around with it with some other coaches, and it's not really their call, I don't think, but I'm not really sure who's making the calls, if we're being honest. But
so going into your 5th and final season, are you full-time punter now?
See, I can't even tell you that right now. We recruited a kid who's a punter. His depth chart position says quarterback/punter, but I got a good feeling that once he gets here, they might be racing the quarterback and just being a punter. But there's a few guys. There's three punters now with him.
Is that including you?
Including me, yep.
Got it.
So, yeah, I mean, I think as of right now, I have the most experience of any of us three, and so I think Farley would put me out there, but I'm kind of hoping that someone else can.
Right, so you want to play defensive back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is the goal then, so you'd rather play defensive back than try to be like a crazy athletic punter with a shot in the National Football League?
I mean, I like doing both, but I mean, I have thought about like NFL punters compared to myself, and it's just there's only like 32 punters in the league, then you have a few reserves, but it's just so hard. I mean, and to set my last year of football just on, that with a small hope of maybe getting a chance, like, I don't know. To me, I'd rather enjoy my last year playing football and doing what I've always done in my head. So,
but at the same time, you probably want to help the team out,
absolutely,
whatever in the best way that you can.
Yeah. So we were playing at South Dakota State first time this year, and I wasn't punting that game, and there was a few short punts, and I was getting so mad. I just not a fan of the Jackrabbits, so any Jackrabbits out there, I'm sorry.
Well, you guys have had some great games against South.
I think we played them like 7 times in the past like 5 years.
Right.
But yeah, so that game we had some bad punts, and I was like, I don't want to, but I got to go in and punt. Like, I don't know. If I need to, I will.
Right. But. You mentioned earlier playing multiple sports, right? And one of the sports that you did was track. You were a good track athlete. I was a little bit disappointed, though, when I saw that you were a shuttle hurdle guy. So in my opinion, Zach, the shuttle hurdle relay is the worst event in track. There's no drama to it. There's only 4 teams on the track at a time at max.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And so how did you get suckered into running the shuttle hurdle relay?
We had a decent shuttle hurdle team my junior year, but we graduated a guy. So we only had 3 guys. And so they're trying to find a 4th guy, and they threw me in at practice. And the first time I ran it, we were at the CYO over in Spirit Lake, or Storm Lake, and I think I was 6 stepping between the hurdles, and for people that don't know, you should 3 or 4 at most. I was 6 or 7. It was ugly. I finally figured it out, and it just kind of went from there, and we ended up getting 6th I think it was 6th my junior year and 3rd my senior year in that. So it's funny talking about that like at college, especially with my teammates that are not from Iowa. No one knows what it is. Like, I had to explain to them because I was one of the only states that does it.
Right. Well, especially for guys.
Yeah.
Like, when I was in high school, the shuttle hurdle relay was a female-only event.
Really?
Yeah. It's only been a guy event for like 5 years now. And it's just the worst. It's just the worst event ever. So what other events did you run?
So I was always a long jumping shuttle hurdle. And then after that, usually it was a 4x2, maybe a distance medley, 4x1, just kind of depended on the meet.
Yeah. You ever run any 4s?
I did. Like a freshman and sophomore year, I think, and
then you talked your way out of them.
I think I ran my way out of those more than I talked out of them. I can run, but when it gets to the distance, like a long distance sprinting, I think my fastest 400 was like a 55 or 56, which is okay, but you should be faster than that. It's
pretty average. So what's the toughest workout you've done? Because when I look back at like toughest workouts I've ever had, they always involve running.
Yep.
I think we had some really tough ones in the Uni Dome for baseball when I was there. But like some of my like basketball high school workouts and some track workouts are on a different level too. You've done it all at this point, and you're 5th year senior. What's the toughest workout you've ever done?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, high school, you think you're working hard, and I'm like, man, this sucks. I'm working hard, and then I get to college, and I realized
there's a whole nother level.
There's a whole nother level. The worst workout, man. So our winter conditioning really sucks. So those are every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday throughout the spring. So I'm doing that. I'll be doing that tomorrow morning, actually, at 6 a.m. So.
Is Jed still running those?
Jed, unfortunately, I would rather him run those because he likes to do a lot of competition stuff. But when Farley runs them, it's just running.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, we go in.
It's just abuse.
Exactly. So we'll do stations for like 10 minutes each. And these aren't like, I mean, these are bands, ladders, bags. Like, you're gassed after that. And then that alone is a workout of its own. But then he blows the whistle at about 7:05. And then we run 180s, which is on the indoor track. It's the straightaway, the curve, and the straightaway.
Oof.
And then we walk the next curve. But it's not like walk and take your time. You walk and you get back to that straightaway, and by the time you're getting there, the whistle's blowing. And so we're running. It takes about 21, 22 seconds to run a 180, and then you're going to walk for about 20 seconds. So it's on, off, on, off. And then those things just suck, especially after a long circuit for an hour. You're gassed, and I had never puked from a workout prior to UNI. I don't know how many times I've puked now since I've been
Really?
there. Yeah.
How many guys are puking at a workout like that?
There's someone every day, and I mean, it's not one, it's 3, 4, and it just kind of early on, especially later on. So like tomorrow morning, I mean, there might be a guy or two, but later on it's not so bad. But those first few those are miserable. I mean, I don't just go on. I hate running.
Whoever the guy is that like went to the OP and had like pizza at 2 a.m,
Exactly,
you'll know it at 6 a.m. on
Yeah,
Monday.
Absolutely, and yeah, you'll see the food coming up. My roommate, it's funny because my roommate, he's our right tackle, and so he came in freshman year. He weighed 220. In a matter of 1 year, he gained 80 pounds, which is ridiculous. So during that spring of our freshman year, he's drinking these, Jed calls it jungle juice, and it's not the alcohol kind.
Right.
Not the alcohol kind.
I've been to a couple of jungle juice parties.
Not those. So these ones are, it's a quarter protein, a quarter Gatorade powder. So half your drink right there is mixes of a powder.
Right.
And then I believe it's water. I think I'm saying it right. If I'm wrong, I don't know. And so it's very thick. And so my roommate was constantly drinking these every day, and it's just to add muscle mass, whatever. So he's in the process of eating all this food and doing all this and then trying to run at the same time. This guy was hunched over the fence puking. He's in every trash can. Like, I've never seen a guy puke so much. And it was ridiculous.
Well, you feel bad for those guys because, to your point, like they're expecting some of these guys that come in, they're 240 in high school, they got to get to 280 or to get to 300. But then Farley's got them doing these 90-minute workouts where they're running at the same time. And if you've ever had like a pre-workout or something, it messes with your stomach anyway,
Absolutely,
you know? And so, yeah, I can imagine there's a lot of guys puking, and some of it's probably not their fault at all.
Yeah, I mean, just especially the line. I always feel bad for the linemen because I'll be complaining if we're running stairs or something. I'm like, I'm 210 pounds, and this sucks. I would hate to be 300 pounds. You know, I always think about them, and I just think, I feel for you.
Yeah, because they got to run. Like, they got to carry a lot of weight.
They do the same workouts that the defensive backs do, the receivers do. It's one big workout, and we're all running, so it's a great time.
How much did you weigh when you came to college? You're 210 now, you said.
I weighed about 175, maybe 180.
Wow.
Yeah, and I've weighed 210 since my freshman year. So right away, we got into our redshirt lifting group. And so what that is for us is during the season, we have meetings before practice for an hour before every practice. But if you're redshirt, I mean, there's no point to go to meetings, right? So we all go to the weight room, the red shirts, and we'll lift with Jed, and you're just lifting constantly. And that's the first time that I lifted 5 days a week. I thought in high school, I'm like, 3 days a week is kind of a lot, right? I'm doing every day of the week, and it's not just, I mean, it's grinding workouts. And between that and you have the dining center, like at home I eat a lot, but my mom can only buy so many granola bars before I run out. So between that and the dining center and having the first time ever having basically unlimited food to my access, combination of those two things, I put on 30 pounds right away in my freshman year.
Wow.
And I'm not. And
Did you feel it?
I don't know. I mean,
because you're getting stronger at the same time, so you're able to carry it well. A lot of it's muscle, a lot of it's lean. But, I mean, 30 pounds in a year is a lot of weight.
I don't think I never really felt a big difference to it. I mean, like you said, muscles coming with it. But, yeah, I went back home and people would say, oh, you look a lot bigger. And I see myself every day in the mirror, and I just you don't see that stuff. So it was different. I look back at pictures now, and it's really funny. Just like it's funny because in high school I thought I was like one of the bigger kids. I never thought I was huge, but compared to some of my friends, I'm like I'm pretty big, right?
Oh yeah, compared to the rest of the Garrigan guys.
Exactly. Okay, and the St. Ed's guys, don't forget them. And it's funny looking at pictures now. It's like I had no muscle definition, and here I am thinking I'm something. I was nothing. It's funny to look back.
what I get a kick out of is you watch, I'm on Instagram or Twitter and Instagram and stuff, and you see these kids that are getting recruited, right? They're in high school now, juniors and seniors in high school, and they'll go to like a UNI or they'll go to Iowa State. And the thing now for the last couple of years has been they'll go on the recruiting visit and then they put them in the uniform, right? They put them in the uniform with the helmet on and like with the gloves and the whole deal, and they'll take these pictures, right? But there's no pads in the uniform. So these guys are pretty scrawny, but to your point, they think they're like jacked and they think they're a big deal because they're taking these pictures. When you were getting recruited 5 years ago, did any of that stuff exist yet?
They would let you on some places. I mean, they'd have the gear set out, but no one was going to get it fully dressed, right? So I think it was at the University of South Dakota. I put on a jersey and I turned around to my mom and I'm like, yep. Like they didn't have a photographer there. I'm just like, well, this is cool. Like,
right.
I just put it on and took it off. I don't know why I did it, but the funniest I see is some colleges are having the parents. Have you seen that?
Oh, yeah.
The parents, they let them dress up.
That's so weird.
That's so funny to me. Weird, but funny.
Yeah, some like dad with a gut, but I don't think they think it's funny. Like I think the dad thinks it's cool. Right?
Yeah,
like
it's very weird for
it's very
older
weird.
Man to get fully dressed like a college
He's not
kid.
doing it ironically, right? And the kid thinks he's a badass, but I think the dad thinks he's a badass too, which is why I think it's so funny. So as you guys are on the team right now, are you guys making fun of some of those kids?
Oh, definitely. I mean, we'll see those pictures, and it's not every kid, but the kid that is going to sit there and flex a little more than he should be, will be like, look at this guy, and that is funny because like you see all those like signing day videos or recruitment videos that kids make in high school. And when you're in high school, don't get me wrong, it's
a big deal.
It's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
But what people don't realize is when you get to that college locker room, that stuff gets brought up and they'll make fun of you for that.
And rightfully so. Like you need that to get humbled, right?
Yeah.
And it's part of like the culture. It's part of like, you got to show some humility when you get to college for guys to like you, because if you think you're the man coming in, like, hey, everybody here took one of those recruiting pictures. Everybody here was the all-state guy. Everybody here. So, like, to fit in, you got to get down to that level.
And it might be different at, like, in Alabama, Clemson, like, where all of those guys are big recruits and they're all doing that. But you and I, like, we're nothing more than a bunch of small-town kids that just write on a piece of paper where we're going. No one makes a big deal about it. So the few kids that do have the hats or whatever, the videos, we'll give them a hard time about it. Nothing personal. It's just you like to give a hard time.
Yeah, you got to have some fun with
it. Absolutely.
So is your grandpa Bill Kibby?
Yep.
So Bill Kibby, for those of you listening to the podcast, one of the most legendary coaches, football coaches in the state's history, coached at St. Ed's. He actually coached a couple of my uncles at St. Ed's back in like the 80s. And then he comes back, he retires from Jefferson, comes back to St. Ed's in like his second life and is the track coach for my brothers and wins like, I don't know, maybe 3 more state titles as the track coach. But you would have been in high school at the same time your grandpa's at St. Ed's. So what was that family dynamic like?
It was pretty fun, and he enjoyed it because it gave him a chance to watch me run. And there were a few track meets that I remember I'd be running, and then after my race, I'd just go sit with him in the stands, and he'd be sitting there time, and I'd just sit with him and talk to him. So that was kind of nice to have that, and it was fun. And then if I'd beat, it was when I'd beat the St. Ed's guys, not if. When I'd beat the St. Ed's guys, I'd go up there and tell him he needs to mix up his lineup a little bit because it wasn't working. So I'd give him a hard time, and he'd just chuckle, and yeah, it was fun.
Did your grandpa tell stories from the glory days? I mean, that guy, he coached for like 50 years.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, so he coached football for, I don't know the exact number, is 40, mid 40s.
Yeah, he's in the Hall of Fame.
He coached football for 40-some years and never won a state championship. Comes to St. Ed's, coaches track for 4 years or whatever, and wins 2 right in the first 4. So part of that was probably part of the kids he had, but I always thought that was kind of funny. But yeah. Bill Kibby is a legend for sure. And when you walk through the halls of St. Ed's, like people still tell Kibby stories, and what was cool about that is you'd always hear Bill Kibby stories from like the generation before us, and then he comes back to coach track, and it was just a whole nother generation that was able to have Bill Kibby stories. And I think that's cool. I think that's like one of my favorite things about like private schools, especially. A lot of times you'll get like retired teachers or coaches that will want to teach and coach in like a small school, Catholic school environment, and so they'll come back. And like Dick Ty at St. Ed's was that way. Bill Kibby was that way. And so you get like this wisdom from guys that are, 2 generations older than you that you're not going to find in other places. Yeah. And your grandpa was definitely one of those guys. Yeah. And it was always funny, like being in high school. he was retired, but he would still substitute teach sometimes.
Oh yeah.
And so I'd have friends at St. Ed's, not very many of them, of course, 'cause I don't know who wants to be friends with them, but he'd be substitute as like a music teacher. And like, I know my grandpa and he likes his Johnny Cash and Elvis, but he's not a music guy. So him teaching music to me is really funny. And like, people would send me Snapchats of him teaching in class, and I just always thought that was kind of funny. And
oh yeah, I love it.
Teaching.
Yeah, it's like it's your best class of the week when like Dick Tyer, Bill Kibby is your religion teacher for the day.
Probably not doing much.
No, you're not. You're talking football all class.
Yeah.
It's the best. So I did watch an interview that you've done before with like a little kid.
Oh, yeah.
There was like a little kid named Derek or something that would interview you guys before every week of the football season. You did an interview with this guy, and he asked you if you believed in UFOs, and you said you do.
Yep.
Do you want to defend that stance?
There's just so much stuff out there. I mean, you've all seen the TV shows and the evidence, and not that it's all true, because I know some that's made up, but there's just so much that I'm just like, there's got to be something out there.
Do you think that they're hiding a spacecraft in Area 51?
I would love to go in there because I have no idea what I would find. I would like to think that they do.
You'd like to think that the government's been hiding secrets from us for 60 years?
I'd say yeah. I'd say yeah. I can't really elaborate on that, but I just would think yes.
Are you one of these guys that have like gone down the YouTube rabbit hole of UFO truthers?
I think that was, yeah. I mean, probably younger, like middle school, high school, but I don't sit on my laptop anymore and look up ghosts, real live ghosts caught on camera, those kind of stories.
Wait till you hit your 30s, you will.
Can't wait.
So, have you ever seen a UFO?
Nah, not that I know of. I mean, I've probably seen some things that I thought were something. It turns out it was a balloon flying through the sky, but
right, you're just in the camp. Like,
I don't have any crazy stories like a door slamming shut for no reason.
Well, Zach, I know you're a big fan of the Moonlight Graham show, so you know that we end every episode with 5 big questions. Yep. And so, first of the 5 big questions is who is your all-time favorite teammate?
I have a lot of. I mean, high school is great. You play with your best friends; those are the kids you grew up with. You do everything with, right? But I would probably say my favorite teammate that I've had is Corby Sander. He's also safety at UNI. He's from Belmont, so
nice.
We'd play in high school in every sport, and we were big rivals. But like I said, you play with all your friends in high school, but I don't think anyone has been able to get more out of me than him. I say that like because we're in the weight room and we lift together, and we're hyping each other up. We're talking trash just to hype each other up, and it's nothing as personal. We'll say it would just. I don't know. People kind of make fun of us because everyone's lifting and we're over here acting like maniacs. And
he's like a best friend plus a rival, kind of thing. Like,
yeah,
you
absolutely.
need that, right?
We're always competing in everything, and I mean, he gets more playing time, but I have 2 lifting records that I beat him on, so I got that on him.
What lifts?
Power clean and squat, but he thinks he's getting them both this year, but we'll see next week.
What are you squatting right now?
The most I ever put on and did was 535.
Holy smokes.
I don't like doing that.
No, I know.
It's too hard.
I think I did over 400 one time in college. You know, on one of those days it was like max out day, and I got like 405 or whatever that number was, and I'm still like amazed by like you get to a point in college when you're lifting all the time, you're lifting so much weight than you ever thought you could.
Yeah.
And then once you stop doing that for, 6 months, a year, like it goes really quickly, like if you're not keeping up with that, there's just no way, because once you start doing 400 pounds, 500 pounds, like it's dangerous.
You stay in shape for a while, but you don't stay in 500 pound shape.
No,
that'll go away fast.
Yeah. There's a reason that's like a max out. That's an apex, right?
Yeah. And like I said, like Corby's always the one spotting me. He's always right there. He'll be the one to give me the last slap before I go and do something, and he didn't play this whole last season because he tore his ACL, but he was at every game. I did something good. He was the first one to give me a handshake or a hug. I don't know. He's probably gotten the most out of me and made me the better person and player.
I like that. Sounds like a great teammate. What's one moment you have from your career, Zach, that reminds you of everything that you love about playing football?
There's one game, and it was the South Dakota State playoff game this year. We went up to Brookings in the season, had a few guys out. We didn't play well, got smacked. Came back there in the playoffs, and we beat them. And the locker room afterwards, it wasn't the game, it was the locker room afterwards. And I have a video on my phone, and we're all just yelling and jumping in a circle. And that right there just kind of reminds you, these are all the guys I work with. These are all the guys that I'm friends with. These are all the guys that come from different backgrounds that come from one common goal. Guys that shouldn't be friends, that have no reason to, that all of a sudden are. I don't know. It was a great feeling walking in there and stealing that one from him.
What's Farley do when he comes into that locker room after the game?
Oh, he jumps around with us.
Yeah.
He'll be in the middle of it.
Oh, that's got to be fun. Yeah, those are the moments that you'll never forget.
Yeah.
Like you're going to forget the punts and you're going to forget the plays, but you'll never forget the feeling in the locker room.
That feeling was the one. That's definitely the best feeling I've had after a game, that one.
South Dakota State, the Jackrabbits. So what from your career still nags at you? Is there one play, one game that keeps you up at night?
Are we talking just college or just in general?
Your whole life, Zach.
I don't really think I can't really think of on top of my head any particular play or game. I think the one thing that kind of bothers me was my whole senior year of high school, I was so worried about, I wanted to play college football and I wanted to play at D1 level. And so I would stress about that so much that I wouldn't enjoy my senior year the way I did. Like we'd win, but I'd still be thinking like it's kind of nagging at you. It's like having homework assignment due. Like it's still in the back of your head. Like, oh, I still got to do this, And part of me wishes I would have just forgot about it and just enjoyed every moment. And it's not that I was mad after a win because I had a bad game. That wasn't the case. It was just that constant stress I was putting on myself, thinking about the future. I just kind of wish I would have stopped and enjoyed what I got going with my friends. For
sure. It's tough to do that, though, especially like when you go to a smaller school. One of the questions is anybody noticing what I'm doing here?
Yeah.
Right? And,
absolutely.
Like if you go to a Valley or a Dowling or a Bettendorf, some of these schools, everybody's watching. And if your
coaches are always in.
Yeah, if you're doing what you need to be doing, you're going to get the offers that you want. But when you're playing at like a St. Edmund or a Garrigan, everybody's like, well, yeah, he's doing it at the 1A level, but can he do
NAIA scouts, the D3 guys. But I actually saw Farley in my school one day. And so I'm thinking, oh, this is it. He's coming for me. He came to see my teammate, not me. And my teammate got an offer. He got the game day visit. I didn't get any of that. And I hated UNI. Like I, for the longest time, wanted to go to South Dakota State. I just wanted to beat them. Turns out differently. But I just remember I went on a game day visit in high school and that wasn't my game day visit. I went as a guest for my friend.
Ooh.
And I just remember I was just so bitter because I'm like, I thought I should be, getting recruited by UNI, and they didn't want me, and I was so mad because I wanted to go there, and I remember just being so mad, and things changed, obviously, and yeah.
I mean, that's what drives you, though, right?
Yeah,
like, when you're young, it might be a little channeled in the wrong way, but it's also what motivates you as an athlete.
Yeah, and
right?
You got to find your personal, everyone says, state championship, and that's a common goal for everyone, but to dig deeper, you got to find that one it's got to be personal for everyone. Like you got to find a personal thing that's going to push you, and whether it be a single person or a goal for yourself. Like my grandpa had a stroke it was in the summer last year, and so I remember that whole fall camp. I was saying, I want him to see me play. If something's going to happen, I want him to see me play. So that was kind of my motivation all last year. Was I want to do it for him. I don't know why. That was always my motivation last year.
What are you most proud of?
I think how far I've come. That's not like a bragging point, but my family, they've been there the whole way through. But like I said, I never got to give the offer coming out of high school, and I had one offer, and it was a $500 scholarship to Iowa Western. No one else offered me, no D2s. I wanted to go to Minnesota State, went on a visit there, and then never heard from them again. So I never had any offers coming out and whatever, and I get a chance to walk on at UNI, and like I said earlier, Farley just told me, it's going to be really tough. Basically, he's telling me that I'm not going to make it. And for some reason, I said yes to that. And I spent 2 years on the bench, never played. And that's long. It's a long time of lifting and running, nothing to show for. And it's also hard because then you go back home and people are expecting you to quit. You hear all the negative comments, like referring to you as, a water boy or just a practice player. And in my mind, it makes me mad. I'm like, oh, you're working so hard and that's all I get. And people don't see where you're working. And so just to come from being a walk-on with nothing to I never thought I'd even play. And now I'm playing special teams, a little defense, and I actually just got a scholarship on Monday, but my mom doesn't know that yet.
Well, this will air after you tell her, right? Well, congratulations,
thank
man.
you. Appreciate it.
What was that meeting like?
I went up there and I was talking to Farley, and he just told me, and I didn't know what to say. Like I just kind of sat there and smiled, and he goes, "That's not what you thought this was about, is it?" Like, I thought I was going to get yelled at for something. And he likes to crack. He knows people get scared of him, so I was all serious, and he'll crack a smile, and I don't know, it's a good feeling just to see where I started from to now, and just I never thought I'd play, and here I am.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I love that, there's a lot of guys that get scholarships out of high school that don't pan out, and that you think maybe that was a waste of a scholarship.
Yeah.
But the guys that started as walk-ons and then earn a scholarship, there's no reason for that coaching staff to give you a scholarship because there's some high school kid or JUCO kid that they need to transfer in that they could give that scholarship for.
Yeah, I mean, it's
but they view you as such a important part of the team, and all the work that you've put in these last 4 years are like, Kibby deserves this. Kibby has earned this, right?
Yeah.
And so I think it's financially it's better to get it out of high school, but like for yourself and for your career, it's a better story and it's more rewarding. It's the underdog story to get it the way you did it because you earned
Moonlight Graham show.
It is, man. And so congratulations. That's so cool.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, final question here, Zach, is what's the best advice you've ever received?
Best advice probably actually came from Mark Farley himself. On my visit that I talked about, and when he was telling me how hard it'd be, he said, it's going to be tough, but you can do it. And he said, you got to have blinders. And in my head, I'm thinking, what does that mean? And he told me, he's like, there's going to be all this negativity. There's going to be times where coaches tell you that you suck, you're not going to make it. People tell you that. There's going to be times where you fail and you tell yourself. I mean, there's always outside factors, internal factors that tell you, no, you can't do it. And he just said, you got to have your blinders on. You got to ignore all that. It's going to be hard. Some days are going to be easier than others. And he goes, if you can just ignore that, stick to your course, you'll make it. And I've kind of lived by that all through college. That and just, having perspective. Like things don't go your way. You can point fingers, but maybe, stop and think, what are they seeing? Maybe I'm not as good as I think I am. Having that perspective and having those blinders to me is, what can get you where you want to go.
That's great. I really like that perspective piece. So this coming year for UNI, it's going to be your 5th and final year. What are the expectations for the team?
Well, we return a lot of guys, so that's exciting.
Yeah.
We picked up a few transfers on the offensive side, so that'll help a lot. We returned, I think, 9 guys on defense. We always talk about a championship, and I think everyone's kind of tired of talking about it, and everyone wants to be about it. So we'll see. Play in the Valley, so we'll play the best of the best, and we'll see how it goes.
What about you for after college?
Education major.
Education major, right?
PE, yep. So my goal is I'd like to be an athletic director, just like my grandpa was.
Yeah.
But I'll start off PE teaching because you need an education degree, right, to be an athletic director. And what's the easiest one? PE. So I chose PE.
It's the fun. You can work on your jump shot most of the day.
I'm majoring in dodgeball while other people are doing math projects and all that stuff. So I'll be student teaching in the spring next year and hopefully get a job and teach for a few years and then hopefully find an athletic director job and coach just like my grandpa did.
There you go. Well, you'd make a great coach, dude. You've had some great mentors at UNI, at Garrigan. There's a lot of good people around. So thank you for coming on the show. A true underdog, Zach.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Hey guys, thanks once again to listening to today's episode of the Moonlight Graham Show. And even though I do most of the interviews here on the podcast, there is a ton of work that happens behind the scenes that you guys don't see that make each episode possible. So I got to give a shout out to the Moonlight Graham Show team. First of all, Brian Sandvig, our producer. Brian does all of the post-production work. And in real life, he's not just a podcast producer, he's also a real estate agent. So if you're looking to buy or sell a home down in the Kansas or Missouri areas, give Brian Sandvig a call. Next guy on that list is Brendan Gargano. Brendan does all of our design and artwork here on the podcast. He's one of the most talented artists I've ever met, and I love all of his work. If you need any help on the design side with logos or anything like that, give Brendan Gargano a call. The next guy on that list is Andy Flattery, my older brother. Andy, of course, has done some of the interviews here on the podcast. He also is a certified financial planner. He owns a business called Simple Wealth Planning. If you need any help in that area, check Andy Flattery out. And then, of course, the trusty co-host Tom Griffin and my younger brother Neil Flattery. Those guys are just busy being husbands, being fathers, they're family men, but also they do a ton of work here on the show. So thanks again for listening. We really appreciate you guys subscribing and supporting the Moonlight Graham Show.